کنفرانس قیام مردم ایران برای یک جمهوری دموکراتیک، نقش اروپا و جامعه بین المللی.
سخنرانی های لوییس راموس، نایب رئیس فراکسیون حزب مردم اروپا در شورای اروپا، کلودیا آندره، نماینده پارلمان پرتغال، پاول پوپسکو، عضو کمیسیون دفاع پارلمان رومانی، آنتیا مکینتایر، نماینده پارلمان اروپا 2020، آندری اوسادچوک، نماینده پارلمان اوکراین.
لوییس راموس، نایب رئیس فراکسیون حزب مردم اروپا در شورای اروپا 2022. زنانی که امروز در خط مقدم قیام در ایران هستند، ثمره جایگاهی هستند که رزمندگان زن مقاومت ایران به دست آوردند.
حضور زنان در رهبری جنبش مقاومت یک انقلاب فرهنگی واقعی برای ایران و خاورمیانه است و زنی که این جنبش برابری را برپا کرده و توسعه داده، مریم رجوی، رئیس جمهور منتخب شورای ملی مقاومت ایران است.
پایداری جنبش مقاومت ایران در مبارزه و وفاداری به آرمان آزادی و دموکراسی برای مردم ایران و پایگاه مردمی گسترده آن در ایران به این جنبش این توانایی را داده که از همه آزمایش‌ها سربلند و پیروز بیرون بیاید.
Je suis heureux de représenter mon pays, le Portugal, avec les parlementaires portugais ici présents. C'est toujours un honneur et un plaisir de voir la diversité des pays et des tendances politiques venus exprimer leur solidarité avec le peuple iranien qui se soulève pour regagner sa liberté. On est à chaque fois impressionné par cette capacité de la résistance à rassembler autour de sa cause qui est en fait la cause de la démocratie et de la justice pour un peuple qui lutte depuis 44 ans contre une dictature religieuse cruelle. Ce long combat intransigeant et de tous les instants a un prix très élevé puisque la résistance déplore 120 000 exécutions politiques, en très grande partie de jeunes, mais aussi des dizaines de milliers de femmes. Oui, les femmes qui sont aujourd'hui à l'avant-garde du soulèvement en Iran sont les fruits de la place que les résistantes iraniennes ont gagnée, une place aux plus hautes responsabilités. La résistance, estimant que pour éradiquer l'extrémisme religieux des mollahs, l'égalité des femmes est nécessaire, en particulier à la direction du mouvement et du pays. Il ne s'agit pas d'une seule femme, mais de toutes les femmes. Cela annonce une véritable révolution culturelle pour l'Iran et le Moyen-Orient. Et la femme qui a lancé et développé ce mouvement d'égalité est Meriem Rajavi. La présidente élue du CNRI, je l'ai rencontrée pour la première fois à l'Assemblée parlementaire du Conseil de l'Europe il y a plusieurs années de cela, lorsque j'étais vice-président du groupe EPP et vice-président de la délégation portugaise. Elle y tenait une conférence et depuis, j'ai suivi et soutenu la cause de ce mouvement. C'est une résistance qui a traversé de nombreuses épreuves. Des épreuves qui auraient dû la balayer en temps normal. Mais sa persévérance dans la lutte et sa fidélité à la liberté et à la démocratie pour le peuple iranien, sa formidable organisation, le soutien de sa base nombreuse en Iran comme à l'étranger et le front international qu'elle a su édifier et que nous retrouvons chaque année dans ce sommet, lui ont permis de sortir de toutes ces épreuves la tête haute et victorieuse, même dans les moments les plus tragiques. C'est pourquoi nous sommes là aujourd'hui, pour l'assurer de notre soutien à son programme en 10 points pour l'Iran de demain, pour mettre fin à l'impunité du régime iranien dans le terrorisme et les violations des droits humains et pour appeler nos gouvernements à mettre le corps des Passadram sur la liste des entités terroristes. C'est la meilleure aide que nous pouvons lui apporter. Madame Rajvi, savez que nous sommes avec vous. Merci.
کلودیا آندره، نماینده پارلمان پرتغال. اکنون شاهد حضور زنانی از نسل زنان اشرفی هستم که نقش رهبری را در قیام ایران بر عهده گرفتند و در این راه به واقع فداکاری می کنند. این زنان موتور محرک تغییر در ایران هستند. خانم مریم رجوی و عملکرد ایشان در رهبری این باور را در همه زنان جاری کرده که باید فداکاری کرد و بر هر مانعی برای تحقق جامعه آزاد با ارزش‌های انسانی غلبه کرد. من حمایت خودم را از برنامه 10 ماده‌ای خانم رجوی به ویژه در رابطه با برابری زن و مرد ابراز می‌کنم.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Cláudia André, a member of the Portuguese Parliament. I have come from Portugal to participate in the gathering in the Iranian resistance and support the Iranian people uprising against the ruling regime in Iran, particularly the women of Iran who are at the forefront of the struggle. Last year, I visited the city of Ashraf III in Albania, where I had the opportunity to meet and speak with women who have dedicated their lives to liberating their country. During my visit, I had the chance to explore their museum, which serves as a historical document of the crimes of the Iranian regime. The picture and the documents I saw were profoundly shocking. I was moved by images and of strong women who had given their lives for the freedom of their people. Now, I find myself in the presence of women from the same generation who have taken leadership roles in the uprising in Iran, sacrificing really along the way. These women are the driving force of change in Iran. I hope also like to recognize the role of women in Iran's resistance. I deeply appreciate Mr. Mariam Rajavi and her function in leading the uprising. She was instilled in all women the belief that dedication should be stupid and that any barriers of a free society with human values must be overcome. I lend my support to Mrs. Rajavi 10-point program, particularly in the gender equality. Thank you.
پاول پوپسکو، عضو کمیسیون دفاع پارلمان رومانی. من به عنوان یک سیاستمدار غربی خواهان رویکردی عملی‌تر در رابطه با رژیم ایران از نظر نحوه برخورد با آن هستم.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy and pleased to see you all. And I usually like to say what I think and what I believe. And this is not necessarily an advantage in politics sometimes. You know, we see people and politicians around the world doing the right thing in a very political correct way, you know. And one of the things that I hate from the bottom of my heart in politics is the hypocrisy of us, of our politicians. Especially the hypocrisy when we speak about human rights. I think the human rights in Iran are a topic which is part of this political hypocrisy, and the fact that we do not act more consistent in looking at what the regime in Iran is doing to those people. I don't want to quote some numbers which are scary. I don't want to quote about the deaths and the way that the people are dying in Iran, the way that the regime of Iran is acting towards the world. But I know only one thing. If we do not start to do something on Iran, geopolitically speaking, all of us, all the countries around the world, treating this very seriously topic with a more serious approach regarding and putting the human rights in the middle of the debate, we will continue in this hypocrisy. And that's why I'm here today, to tell you that we need to get things done. And these days, I want, as a Western politician, a little more leadership and a little more hands-on approach on the Iran regime in terms of how do we deal with that. This is why I'm here today. I'm not going to go, as I said, to too many numbers. We all know them. We just need to do more about it. This is my conclusion today, and I thank you all.
آنتیا مک‌اینتایر، نماینده پارلمان اروپا 2020. زنان و دختران جوان در خط مقدم تظاهرات هستند، زیرا این زنان هستند که در 44 سال گذشته اپوزیسیون سازمان یافته ایران، سازمان مجاهدین و شورای ملی مقاومت را رهبری کردند. زمانی که برنامه 10 ماده‌ای خانم رجوی اجرا شود، ایران و خاورمیانه را متحول خواهد کرد، زیرا به زنان این فرصت را می‌دهد تا آینده کشورشان را شکل دهند. مردم در خیابان‌های ایران از برنامه دمکراتیک خانم رجوی حمایت می‌کنند.
Dear friends and colleagues, it's a great pleasure to be here with you today and to have the opportunity to support the Iranian resistance movement. For a number of years, while I was an MEP, we met regularly with Meriem in Brussels and in Strasbourg to support the cause of freedom for Iran. And it is good to see so many former colleagues here today. We often criticized the way the European Union at the time pursued a policy of appeasement with the mullah's regime. It is wonderful that women and the younger generation of girls are at the forefront of protests in Iran. It shouldn't surprise us that they are, because it is women who've been leading the organized Iranian opposition, the PMOI-MEK and the NCRI, for the last 44 years. The women of Iran are challenging the regime every day with organized resistance and making great personal sacrifices. Such brave women and such a contrast to the misogynist rulers of Iran. The Iranian regime clearly sees women and girls as a serious threat to their grip on power. So they reduce them to second-class citizens in both law and practice. The Iranian resistance movement, the NCRI, on the contrary, sees women and girls as the driving force for change and the guarantors of a free, democratic, and secular republic. In Maryam Rajavi's 10-point plan, Article 5 states complete gender equality in the realms of political, social, cultural, and economic rights, and equal participation of women in political leadership, abolishment of any form of discrimination, the right to choose one's own clothing freely, the right to freely marry and divorce as a woman, as an individual, and to obtain education and employment, and also prohibition of all forms of exploitation against women under any pretext. Mrs. Rajavi and her 10-point democratic platform will transform Iran and the Middle East if and when it is implemented, because it gives women the opportunity to shape the future of their country. The people on the streets of Iran clearly support Mrs. Rajavi's democratic platform, and this should be recognized and supported and endorsed by the international community. It is really heartening to hear parliamentarians from many European countries endorsing this movement in their statements. As long as the current regime in Iran is in power, Iran will stand for human rights abuse, for torture, for mass executions, and for terrorism. This in no way represents the people of Iran or their aspirations. The Iranian people's desire is to overthrow the regime and to establish a secular and democratic republic. This is shown by their anti-regime protests. So the international community must realize that and stand with the Iranian people and Mrs. Rajavi to make this day come sooner rather than later. The EU and the UK have a responsibility and a moral duty to hold the Iranian regime to account and bring the regime's leaders to justice. They can do it in a number of ways: by referring the regime to the UN Security Council, by recognizing Maryam Rajavi and her 10-point platform as an obvious democratic replacement to the regime, by assisting Iranians and the Iranian resistance who are seeking justice under universal jurisdiction in Europe. And most importantly, they can proscribe the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC, and designate it as the terrorist organization that we all know it is. My friends, with the strength of the Iranian resistance and the leadership of Maryam Rajavi, I have great hope and belief that the end of the mullah's regime is in sight, and we will soon see a democratic and free Iran. Thank you.
آندری اوسادچوک، نماینده پارلمان اوکراین: ما معتقدیم که رژیم ایران، سران آن و بسیاری از سرکردگانش مسئول مستقیم مرگ اوکراینی‌ها و تخریب زیرساخت‌های ما هستند.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's a big pleasure and honor and privilege to be here. My name is Andrei Sachuk. I'm the first deputy head of Law Enforcement Committee of Ukrainian Parliament. So, greetings from Kyiv. For 16 months of war, I think the total amount of kamikaze Iranian drones sent to Ukraine, I think, exceeds several thousands. I'm sure that the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine has an accurate figure, but it is thousands. Meaning that for us, the Iranian regime is not just one of totalitarian regimes which exist in this world, violating the human rights, killing its citizens. For us, Iranian regime is the enemy of Ukraine, the enemy of each citizen of Ukraine. We believe that Iranian regime, its leaders and a lot of officers are directly responsible for the deaths of Ukrainians and destruction of our infrastructure, meaning that from one side we will never forgive and never forget. Secondly, we will do all of our best to bring all of them to responsibility. So, Iranian regime is the enemy of Ukraine. So, please promote one thing: zero tolerance to dictatorships. Thank you.